Hello, students. In our today's session, we will be studying one of the most important part of mercantile or business law, which is the Indian Contract Act 1872. Today's session will be focused more on understanding the meaning of contract, understanding the distinction between an agreement and a contract, and going through certain kinds of contracts which will help you distinguish between the nature of a contract and its characteristics. We will also go through in brief the essentials of a valid contract under section 10 to try and understand as to which all contracts in India are enforceable. Now, Indian Contract Act, as we said, is one of the most important part of business law, which affects every person and his actions with other people on day-to-day life. For example, when we travel by bus or by train, we go to a hotel or eat something outside or purchase certain goods, be it for cash or be it for credit, all these are the contracts which create certain legal rights and obligations between the parties. The law of contract is mainly concerned with the enforcement of such rights and obligations. The Indian Contract Act, which came into force in 1872, mostly deals with the general principles governing the contracts. The word contract, which we have been hearing on day-to-day basis for lifelong, can be defined by various people altogether. Now, this particular word contract has been defined under Section 2, Clause H of the Indian Contract Act as an agreement enforceable at law. Whereas one of the distinguished jurists, Salmond, defines contract as an agreement creating and defining obligations between the parties. Whereas Blackstone, one of the another jurist, tries to define contract as an agreement upon a sufficient consideration to do or not to do so a particular thing. To summarize, Pollock Frederick also said that every agreement and promise which is enforceable at law is a contract. And all these definitions considered today, and to brief down the definitions, we can obviously go on saying that a contract is an agreement which has got certain legal enforceability. Agreement is legally different than contract. Not every agreement can be brought under the ambit of Indian Contract Act. To give you a small example, let's say Mr. A invites his friend Mr. B for dinner and Mr. B accepts his invitation. There is no doubt that there is an agreement in the sense that yes, B agrees to go and have dinner at A's place. However, the obligations which are created between A and B are only moral obligations, but they are not legal obligations. If tomorrow, let's say, B fails to go and attend A's party, then in that case, A cannot sue B for damages for failure to perform his obligations. The parties here did not intend to create any legal relationship out of such an agreement. They just had a certain relationship wherein it was moral obligation upon the parties. Certain obligations can be moral, whereas certain might be social or certain might be religious. But all these agreements cannot be brought under the ambit of a contract, and therefore it is commonly said that every agreement is not a contract, but every contract is an agreement, because only the agreements which can be legally enforced under the Indian Contract Act, only they will be connoted as a contract. Others, even though they might fulfill the essential conditions of a valid agreement, they may not be fulfilling all the essential conditions of a valid contract. And that is why, legally speaking, there is a difference between an agreement and a contract. A law of contract, that is the Indian Contract Act, does not deal with those agreements which do not create legal obligations and relationships. It only deals with those agreements which create legal relationship and are enforceable under law. Our next topic will be wherein we will be going through certain kinds of contracts Now, certain of these contracts, the types have been defined under the Indian Contract Act, and the provisions with its respect have been provided under the Indian Contract Act. However, there are certain contracts types or kinds which are not defined under this law, but it is as per its enforceability or its performance, you can distinguish them or try to make certain difference between them as per its performance. The first and the most important kind of a contract is a valid contract. Valid contract means a contract which fulfills all the essential elements of enforceability which are given under Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act. Now, in our future sessions, we will be studying as to what are these essential elements under Section 10, but only those contracts which can be legally enforced. That meaning if one of the party does not fulfill the obligation promised, then the other party can go to the courts and ask for damages or claim any damages, compensation, or seek any redressal for such a type of contracts. So in case of breach of contract, only if the contract is a valid contract, the other party, that is the aggrieved party, will get some reimbursement or damages or relief. But if a contract is not a valid contract, and if the party does not perform and breaches the contract, then in that case the aggrieved party cannot get any damages or claim any relief from the courts, because such contracts are not considered to be binding and they are not considered to be enforceable by the courts in India as well. It is only the valid contract which creates legal rights and obligations between the parties. Such contract is termed as a valid contract. The next kind of a contract is known as a void contract. Now, void contracts are basically agreements which are not enforceable at law, and that is why they are considered to be void. Void, if you try and translate it into Marathi, it means व्यर्थ. व्यर्थाचा अर्थ की त्याचा कुठल्याही अंमलबजावणी करता येत नाही. It is the contract without any legal effect. It may be valid in the beginning, but subsequently it may become void. So a contract or an agreement may become void ab initio or subsequent void. Now the word void ab initio means that the agreement has been void or the contract has been void from the beginning itself. That means the minute that particular contract was signed, it could not be coming under the Section 10 because all its requirements were not fulfilled, and that is why from the beginning itself the contract was termed to be void, and this is known as void ab initio. Whereas certain contracts might be perfectly valid at the beginning. At the beginning means when they were executed between the parties. But due to certain changes in the circumstances or changes within the parties, now the contract becomes void, and such contracts are considered to be subsequently void contract. For example, if a contract of marriage becomes void if one person is dead after that execution or before that execution, the subsequent impossibility renders the contract void and unenforceable. To give you another example, let's say if a contractor has signed a contract with a service vendor, and that service provider is supposed to go on providing certain electrical services to the building which is constructed by the contractor. Tomorrow, due to an earthquake, the entire building collapses. Now, this situation, in which case neither of the party is at fault, however, now it has become impossible for the service provider to provide any electrical services because the subject matter of the contract, that is, the building in itself, now does not exist because it has now collapsed due to the earthquake, and such kind of voidability is considered to be subsequent void, and thereby a contract, it might be void from the beginning itself. For example, a contract, if it is signed by a minor, becomes void ab initio. However, if under certain circumstances, after the contract is executed, due to certain circumstances, now it becomes impossible to perform that contract, then in that case it will be considered to be subsequently void. The third kind of a contract which does create lot of legal rights upon the parties is known as voidable agreement. Voidable, to translate it into simple Marathi, means varjaniya. That means an option is there with the aggrieved party whether to go ahead with the contract or to not go ahead with the contract and consider the contract to be a void contract. I'll give you a small example, thereby you may be able to understand this concept of voidable agreement. Let's say somebody has come up to my house, has put a gun on my head, and says that you transfer your assets, certain assets, let's say fridge, refrigerator, TV, and microwave, all these movable properties. Says that you transfer all these movable properties to me by a written agreement and puts a gun on my head. Now, if my life is dear to me more than the refrigerator and the microwave and the fridge, then in that case, definitely I will transfer all these assets to this particular person. That means the contract has been signed between both of us for selling or transferring certain commodities which I own, and in return, the person will give me 5-10 rupees, whatever consideration he feels right. Now, this contract which has been signed without taking my free consent, that means without taking my consent happily, tomorrow if I tell that person that I am not going to give you this particular microwave, the person might go to the court and say that we had signed a contract under which you were supposed to give me the possession of this microwave. Now that you are denying means you have breached the contract. In such case, the court will consider whether the consent, my consent which was taken, whether that consent was taken freely or not. Tomorrow, if I become successful in proving it in the court that no, my consent was not free consent, whereas it was under coercion. Coercion means सिम्पल मराठीमध्ये म्हणायचं गेलं तर जबरदस्ती माझी परमिशन घेतली होती किंवा जबरदस्ती माझी कन्सेंट घेतली होती. Then the court will say that even though there was a contract which was signed between the parties, but the consent was not a free consent, and thereby it will become a voidable agreement. What is the result of such agreements? The result of such agreement is that now I, as an aggrieved party, that means my consent was not a free consent, I get a right to choose whether I want to go ahead with the contract or I don't want to continue with the obligations. If tomorrow I say that no, my consent was not a free consent, मी मर्जीनी माझ्या साईन केला नव्हता, माझ्याकडून जबरदस्ती साईन करून घेतला होता कॉन्ट्रॅक्ट, then in that case I can say that the contract is now void and my obligations come to a standstill, means I don't have to perform my part of obligation. But tomorrow if I feel that no, it's okay, even though this person had put a gun on my head and taken my consent for transferring these assets, but now I don't want these assets, it's better he gives me certain money in exchange to those assets, and so I go ahead and say that no, it's okay, you can continue, we can continue with the contract, I will sell you all these commodities and you can give me the money in exchange to that particular goods. Then in that case, this voidable agreement now becomes a valid agreement or a valid contract. So in gist, a voidable agreement is an agreement in which case one or more parties, that means the party whose consent was taken which was not a free consent, that party will be able to decide whether to go ahead and make the contract a valid contract or not go ahead and confirm the contract to be a void contract. That exactly is the meaning of voidable agreement. The next type of or kind of contract is known as an express contract. Now, the word express contract itself says that the contract which is made by words spoken or written is known as express contract. In this case, the parties may make an oral or written promise which is valid under the Indian Contract Act. So the Indian Contract Act does not say that agreement or a contract must be in writing. Under the Indian Contract Act, two parties may verbally or orally agree to certain rights and obligations and their duties, and such oral agreements will also be considered to be valid contract, because the section 10 never mentions that it should be in writing only, and such type of a contract is considered to be express contract. As against it, the next kind of a contract, which is an implied contract, means a contract which is gathered from the conduct of the parties, is known as implied contract. It is not expressly stated by words spoken or written, but it is due to the conduct of the parties that you may gather that yes, there is a contract between two people. Now, to give you a small example, let's say I go to a shop and I tell the shopkeeper that what is the cost of 1 kg sugar. The shopkeeper says that it is 10 rupee. The minute I give 10 rupees to that shopkeeper, it means that I want 1 kg of sugar. Such kind of contract may be termed as an implied contract. I have not expressly told him that yes, I want 1 kg sugar at 10 rupees, but my conduct of or my expression of giving him 10 rupees implies that I want 1 kg sugar. And the minute he gives me that 1 kg sugar for 10 rupees, there is an executed contract between both the parties. That means I have given my part of consideration of 10 rupees to him, and in return he has given me 1 kg sugar. So when a contract can be gathered from the conduct of the parties, the expression of the parties, then such contract is considered to be an implied contract. The next kind of contract, which is not a typical contract but it is similar to a typical contract, which is known as a quasi contract. The word itself suggests quasi typically means that it is not exactly the same, but it is similar to it. This is a type of a contract which is created by law. It resembles a contract in that a legal obligation is imposed on a party and that party is required to perform that obligation. It is on the ground of equity that nobody should grow rich at the cost of others. To give you a small example, let's say a trader delivers good to B's residence by mistake. Now B files a case in the court and B, let's say, starts using those goods for his own purpose. Here B is bound to pay for the goods for a simple reason: those goods did not belong to B, neither did B had ordered those goods, but A by mistake had delivered those goods to B. Then in such case, if B is using those goods, it will be considered by law that now that obligation is imposed upon B to deliver the money or to pay for those goods to A, because now the B has already consumed the goods, and thereby such type of contracts which are imposed by some legal obligation and they are not mutually signed between the parties or mutually executed between the parties, such type of contracts are known as quasi contracts. Second last kind of a contract is known as executed contract. Now when both parties have fulfilled their part of obligation, it will be considered to be executed contract. Now as we know, every contract creates certain obligations between the parties, and thereby if both the parties have fulfilled their part of obligation and nothing is remaining under the contract, it will be considered to be an executed contract. Whereas on the other hand, if either of the party is yet to perform its part of obligation, then such kind of a contract will be considered to be an executory contract, meaning that in future one of the party has to still perform its part of obligation, and thereby neither party is relieved from the obligations under the law. These are the major kinds of contracts. Some of them are specifically provided under the Indian Contract Act, whereas few are implied by the conduct of the parties. We will go on with a brief introduction under Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act to understand what are the essentials of a valid contract. Which are such agreements which are enforceable under law, meaning which agreements will be considered to be a contract. If the agreement goes on fulfilling all the listed essentials of a valid contract, only such agreements can be enforceable under the Indian Contract Act. Now, all these essential elements, in our future sessions, we are going to go one by one to learn each and every element which I have quoted under our PPT. But let us today just go through briefly to understand what are these concepts all about. The first concept is known as proposal and acceptance. Proposal, the word itself suggests that somebody has initiated the process of a contract. Let's say I go to a shop and I want to purchase a mobile phone. I go on asking all the details of various mobile phones, and thereby I am interested in purchasing a mobile phone. I pick up one mobile phone and I ask that person that what is the cost of this mobile phone. I want to purchase this mobile phone. What will be the cost of this mobile phone? I am ready to pay the cost for it, means I am giving the person a proposal to sell me that mobile phone. If that shopkeeper agrees to it and says that okay, this is the cost of that mobile phone and you can purchase this mobile phone, means that shopkeeper has accepted my proposal of purchasing the mobile phone. Now, in our future session, we will in depth try and understand the difference between proposal, acceptance, and invitation to offer. That means offer and invitation to offer are both altogether different things. So, in our next sessions, we will be discussing that. The next element is an intention to create legal relationship. Now, like we said, that all relationships cannot be brought under the ambit of Indian Contract Act. There should be intention between the parties to create legal relationship, meaning they should be intending to bring themselves under the scope of Indian Contract Act and bring themselves under the judiciary as well as this particular legislation. For example, on everyday basis, there are n number of agreements which are created between husband and wife, or between parents and their daughter or sons. All these agreements which are created do not have an intention of any legal relationship. They are just personal relationships, and thereby if there is no intention to create legal relationship, it will only be an agreement and it cannot be termed to be a contract. The next and important element is your mutual consent. It is also said that it has to be the consent which is mutually given by the parties. If one of the party agrees to an agreement but the other party does not provide any acceptance or does not give any sort of acceptance, then there cannot be mutual consent. More so, whatever both the parties have agreed to, they should be agreeing for the same thing in the same sense, and this is termed as consensus ad idem, typically meaning that both of the parties should be thinking about the same thing in the same sense. If I have got two bikes, for example, and I am calling my friend and saying that I am ready to sell my red color bike, but my both bikes are red in color, then there is no consensus ad idem, because my friend will be confused about exactly which bike I am trying to sell. If I am trying to talk about Royal Enfield red color bike, I want to sell that bike, but my friend thinks in his head that I am trying to sell Hero Honda red bike, then there cannot be any contract. It will just be an agreement which cannot be enforced, because our consent is not mutual consent, meaning we are not thinking about the subject matter in the same sense. The next important essential is your free consent. This is one such topic which we will discuss in detail later on, but free consent means that it should be at the will of the party. At the will means इच्छेने, स्व इच्छेने त्या व्यक्तीने स्वतःची संमती दिली असली पाहिजे. If the consent is obtained either by coercion or by fraud or misrepresentation or by mistake, then in that case that consent cannot be considered to be free. Free means free of any sort of obligations. Then such type of consent will not be considered to be for a valid contract. Next is competent parties. Section 11 of the Indian Contract Act talks about competence of the parties, thereby meaning as to which parties are capable of entering into a valid contract. To give you a small example, a minor, that means a person who is below the age of 18 years, or if the person has been appointed a legal guardian for, then the age of majority is 21 years. Such people are not considered to be capable enough of entering into a contract, and thereby if such person executes a contract, the contract will be considered to be void ab initio. Next is lawful consideration and object. That means the consideration. In simple Marathi, it means pratifal. Consideration and the objective of that contract should be lawful. If tomorrow I give one person 1 lakh rupees and tell him to go and murder another person, it will not be considered to be a valid contract, because the objective of my contract itself is unlawful. Killing a person, murdering a person is unlawful under the Indian laws, and such type of contracts will not be considered to be valid. If a contract is executed, it should be certain and it should be possible that its performance is going to be fulfilled. If a contract is impossible to be performed or it is uncertain to be performed, that contract cannot be considered to be a valid contract. Meaning, let's say tomorrow a magician comes to my house and says that I will turn this entire furniture of wood into a furniture of gold by just moving my wand around. Now, turning a furniture of wood into a furniture of gold by just moving the wand is impossible, and such contracts which cannot be performed, it is humanly impossible to perform such contracts, cannot be considered to be valid contracts. The contract to become valid must not be declared to be void by any other law, be it the Indian Contract Act or be it any other law. To give you a small example, there are certain agreements which have been declared void under the Indian Contract Act. For example, an agreement which is signed in restraint of a marriage or trade is void and cannot be enforced at law. And the last essential element is that it should fulfill all the legal formalities which are provided under various laws applicable to that situation. In certain cases, a contract must be in writing and must be registered. Like we said, under the Indian Contract Act, a contract might be oral, that is verbal, or it might be in writing. But tomorrow, if I am trying to execute a contract for transferring any immovable property, that means let's say I'm selling my flat, I'm selling my house, then such contracts must be in writing and must be registered under the Transfer of Property Act. And thereby, even though it is a valid contract, it will be considered to be valid only if it is in writing. Certain contracts need also to be stamped, and certain contracts need to be on a stamp paper, meaning certain contracts have to perform or have to fulfill certain formalities under the respective legislations, and only such contracts which fulfill these obligations or formalities will be considered to be valid contract. So this was in brief the introduction to a contract and what do you mean by a valid contract, void contract, voidable, quasi contract, executory, executed contract, express and implied contract, and in short, what are the essentials of a valid contract. Going ahead in our next sessions, we will be going through in detail each and every essential of a valid contract, starting with the proposal and acceptance. So, till that time, students are requested to go through these slides again and try and understand the difference between these contracts. Thank you so much.